Today I'm showing the making of my Ivankov One Piece cosplay. This is my first ever cosplay, so there's a lot of bumps in the road and I don't have everything filmed, but if you'd like to hear about my experience, keep watching. So I really wanted to make as much as I could from scratch because I'd been inspired by a lot of the cosplayers I'd seen on social media, but I very much underestimated how simple wig styling and sewing can be. So I went in and I found an old party wig that I had stuffed in my closet. I ended up dipping it in a bucket of water and fabric softener and I left it overnight. I assumed that this would actually simplify the process of wig styling, but I think maybe the wig that I had was just a bit too tangled and a bit too poorly made to deal with at my skill level. When I ended up trying to detangle it, it ended up really not working out. I even took a silicone hairspray detangler, which I'd seen recommended in other people's videos, and it did work to some degree. However, there was just a lot of matted and knotted areas near the base of the wig cap that I tried cutting out, but this was a very thin wig in general. It really couldn't withstand being chopped or hacked at as much as I was thinking I would have to do. It was sort of unsalvageable in my current level. And so therefore I ended up just going out and buying a different wig online, mainly because I knew sort of the limitation. Having an overly complicated wig when I was just starting out was probably just not the way to go. So moving on, I decided to work on the bodysuit. I ended up sourcing a bodysuit online, one that I could wear that would cover the full body since I was wearing it in the winter. I then took an old t-shirt and I sketched on the torso tattoo that's on Ivankov's body. Instead of placing it on my skin, I'd be placing it on the bodysuit. And what I ended up doing was I'd sew with a sort of zigzag stitch over the outline, mainly because it would not hold its shape if I cut it out and then tried to sew it to sort of give it some definition. Thankfully, I did this method because the fabric would roll on itself quite a bit. So if I had cut it out beforehand, I most likely would have not been able to sew the edges to contain the shape. I'm still what I would consider a novice at sewing. I've not worked out how certain stitches and different fabrics work with one another. My best tip for other people just getting into this is to take it very slowly and work the fabric through the machine very slowly, since they can go quite deceptively fast if you're not careful. I'd also recommend keeping a similar tension while you're pulling the fabric through the sewing machine so that the stitches do not pull apart from each other. So I kind of left a bit of a gap between where I cut and where the stitches of the tattoo are. I left it that way mainly because I was worried about possibly unraveling the fabric. It possibly would have been fine, but I think taking precautions when you don't know the materials is probably for the best. And then I ended up safety pinning it onto the bodysuit I was gonna wear, mainly because I wanted a reversible option if in the future I have a different cosplay idea in mind that would require a bodysuit. I then went on to tackle the crown. I could not have made the crown without the incredible tutorial by Lily in Wonderland. I will leave a link in the description. They're the only reason I was able to make a crown at all. My attempts of making a crown fell flat completely. I made a mock-up out of paper thinking that I could get the shape of the crown sort of sounded out right, but then when I moved on to the foam, I did not understand the substrate. I also did not know the best methods on how to adhere foam to one another. I quickly learned that a stapler was not going to do much, and so I ended up using Elmer's glue, a PVA glue, which I've learned after the fact is probably not the best glue either, but I didn't have any other options that I could safely use. The bigger takeaway I have from making a crown is instead of having so many little pieces that you are trying to stick together, it is better to plan a mock-up that utilizes as much of one piece of foam as possible to keep its integrity and shape. So I didn't film any clips after working on this crown for any of the other pieces, like the makeup. I think the most important part about cosplay that I've really learned is that it's best if you try, even if it's coming out completely horribly. At the very least, you're starting to learn how they actually move in 3D space versus imagining it. Sometimes you just can't really fathom how it even works when you're using your own two hands to create something. I've learned there's really no reason to compare myself to others since everyone has their own pathway, and this was really, at the end of the day, meant to be for enjoyment and potentially learning a new hobby. Hopefully by the time I'm making my next cosplay, I've learned some skills that I can use and improve upon and then become even more proud for what I'm able to create from this point on. In just a few moments, I'll also show you the final cosplay with a few drawn on enhancements that I've edited myself because I thought it'd be a little more fun if I could bring myself closer to what I wanted to capture of Ivankov's full outfit. So I drew on a Ivankov's face. I tweaked the coloration of the bodysuit. I added gloves and the boots because I didn't actually have those before I ended up wearing this cosplay. I do wish that I could have had a more accurate wig, but I think for a first time, I'm at peace with how it ended up happening, and it didn't detract from my outfit at the end. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below.